guys, how's it going? My name is John from Phenomenal Bunch, and today we're going to talk about Spider-Man Miles Morales. Specifically, what does this standalone game need to, well, stand alone. Before I begin, I gotta talk about how much I love the first game. I actually made a video before the game came out titled, What Will Make Spider-Man PS4 Worth $60? I shared some things that I was skeptical about and how high my expectations were. When I finally played and beat the game, it ended up being one of the few games I've ever got the Platinum Trophy for. I still play the game from time to time just to swing around New York City and redo some of the bases. In short, I love that game. It's one of my 10 out of 10 games. So as you might imagine, my expectations are still pretty high for Spider-Man Miles Morales. They'll be releasing sometime near the end of this awful year 2020. So without further ado, here are my thoughts on what I think Spider-Man Miles Morales needs to include to be a great follow-up to Spider-Man PS4. So, I'm going to start off with the big one. How long should the game be and how much should it cost? Since this is a standalone game and not DLC, I do expect a decent length. However, since it's only 2 years after the first game, I don't expect this game to reach the 20 to 30 hours of Spider-Man PS4. I believe it'll be around 8 to 10 hours for the story, and maybe 2 to 3 hours for side missions. Also, I do not think the game should be $70, that's the rumored price for a bunch of the next-gen games. The $70 price tag is kind of ridiculous, so with that being said though, I don't think it should be $60 either. This is being compared to Uncharted Lost Legacy, the standalone game of the Uncharted series. That game had a $40 price tag at release, and it was around 8 hours long. Most likely it will be $60 to $70 considering it is kind of a launch title for the PS5, but I hope there's enough content to justify that price. Also, it would be interesting if they do release a Miles Morales PS5 bundle, but we'll just have to wait and see. Now, right off the bat, if we don't get the Spider-Verse costume with the hoodie, the shorts, and the shoes, I'm not going to riot, that's kind of dumb, but I will be pretty upset. Also, I wouldn't mind if they include 2 Spider-Verse costumes, one with the outerwear and one without. Also, since Miles doesn't have a long history of multiple costumes like Peter Parker does, I would probably assume that Insomniac will get creative with it and make up a bunch of original costumes made by comic book artists like in the first game. Even though I wasn't a fan of any of the original costumes, they have a lot of room for creativity with Miles. Some costumes that I would like to see in the game are like maybe a trainee one with Miles like we saw at the end of Spider-Man PS4 at the end of the DLC, or maybe even a classic Spider-Man costume for Miles. That would be interesting as well. Swinging was almost perfect in the first game. There are very little improvements needed. It felt fluid and fun and did not take a lot of time to master. You got the hang of it almost immediately. The only improvements needed are more animations, more air tricks, and some more interesting interactions when you're swinging street level. In the first game, it feels like you're just hovering over cars when you were too close to the street. But going back to the idea of being able to get the hang of it immediately, I wonder if the PS5 controller can lend itself to swinging that makes us feel like an inexperienced Spider-Man. The swinging in this game should be a little harder to master. There isn't a lot of information about the adaptive triggers besides feeling the tension of your movements, but what if the amount of pressure you put on the triggers depends on the environment you're swinging in? For example, street level swinging should involve more careful and precise combos of web zips, point launches, and quicker swings, therefore requiring lighter but faster presses on the trigger. And if you're swinging higher up, it should be more of a combination of web zips and a mix of harder but slower presses on the trigger. This could be fun and will require the player to learn with Spider-Man. That would be really cool. The combat in the first game was also almost perfect. There are so many different ways to take out enemies, and there was a pretty good variety of them. Miles should have a completely different set of weapons that have a focus on hacking and de-weaponizing enemies. We get a taste of it in the first game when he was hacking Sable guys, but I feel in this game, they should go all out with that idea. Also, some cool suit powers and mods for Spider-Man would be great. Really take advantage of Spider-Man's Venom Sting. Maybe have that be similar to the Electric Punch suit power in the first game. Also add some better variety for air combat. And as for difficulty, I would just like there to be a little more of a challenge for the boss fights and when doing stealth. Stealth in the first game was way too easy, even on the highest difficulty. The game would literally tell you whether or not it was safe to take an enemy. It should be the player scanning the environment and figuring out whether it's safe or not the game telling you when it's safe. Also, the web kick takedown was way too overpowered and fast, and enemies would take too long to notice anything. I would imagine stealth would be even easier in this game because Miles can go invisible, so I hope they balance this out by making invisibility temporary or have it be exclusive to a suit power. So there are also some other things I would like to see in the game besides additions to combat or swinging. I would also like to see dynamic weather. This wasn't in the first game because Insomniac wanted to create emotion with weather. However, I feel with instant load times, it can get away with weather changes before missions, kind of like how side missions were in the first game. And if there is no dynamic weather, I would like to see more options included, like snow during the day and night, rain, overcast, and more. Also, something else I would like to see is battle damage. Battle damage is something we haven't seen for a long time. There was a battle damage suit in the first game, but I would like to see it happen in real time, like in the Amazing Spider-Man games. It was really clever how they did it in those games. You have to go back to Peter's apartment in order to fix up your suit. The last thing I would like to see is being able to choose specific missions to replay, like a mission select system, instead of having to start the game over again. This would be a cool addition. In the first game, you could only replay bases and challenges. Being able to choose certain sections of the game would add even more replay value. First of all, I do not want to play as a side character. These sections in the first game where you had to do stealth sections with MJ or Miles were very unnecessary and boring. I hope they do away with those. With that being said, I do hope Miles Morales' supporting cast is fun and interesting. Maybe they can introduce Genki as a character who helps Miles with tech upgrades, or maybe the Feast Center returns and Miles' mom is taken over after Aunt May's passing. Or maybe they can have Aaron Davis be Miles' window into the crime world. There are plenty of ways to go about it, but the biggest thing the game should tackle is why Peter is missing. I have seen people say that Peter goes to help MJ with an issue in Symkaria, so that would be a pretty interesting reason and maybe set up a storyline for the next game. However, I want to make it clear that I want Miles to take the spotlight in this game, and I hope Peter has a very minimal role in the game. If he is in there for some capacity, I would be curious to how they handle his gameplay. Would it be like the first game where you just press square and Peter will attack certain enemies for you? Or will they do something similar to Arkham Knight, where there are certain missions where you need to switch between Parker and Miles? Will there be a portion of the game where you need to do challenges with Peter to get better upgrades and skills? I am super interested to see where this goes. And yeah, those are some things I want to see from Spider-Man Miles Morales. As for our next video, we're bouncing back between a few ideas. We're either going to do a Ghost of Tsushima review, or we're going to do a video on the future of wrestling games. And if you guys have some ideas on what we should do, just leave it in the comment section below. And until next time, guys, go ahead and leave a like if you like this video, and if you guys want to leave a comment as to what you guys want to see in Spider-Man Miles Morales, go ahead and leave it below. I'd love to read them. And of course, if you guys like what you see and you want to see more, go ahead and click that subscribe button. Thank you, guys.